Hello everyone and welcome to FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern on our first non-daylight savings episode for the year. So I guess this is our winter season and denoted by the dark city background I've got happening now. So how are you, Steve?
I'm good. Hello, FiST Chat fans. I guess if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, you've actually gone to daylight savings, spring's in the air, and I guess perhaps you're even looking forward to summer over there. For us, it's the exact opposite. I'm all right, and my brain's not bad, and I don't think I've been affected by cybercrime. How's that?
Oh, excellent. So I'm guessing you're one of the no's in that survey?
Oh, it was a yes, actually.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, we'll get to the results in a minute. Before we get to that, don't forget our website, www.fistchat.com. You can get all our links there. You can subscribe to our audio via iTunes, RSS, and FeedBurner, and also to our videos on YouTube, Vimeo, and Digicosm TV. So all of our back episodes from the past 2 years are there. You can interact with us on Twitter, Google Plus, and Facebook. Love to hear from you, and we have interacted with a few of you, which is always good. Our ebook is available on Amazon. Just go to fistreport.com and the links are there. Cheap, 99-cent read, and but high quality, of course, with
it's a great read.
Writing from the first 2 years. And, of course, our supplementary content, the weekly blogs, photography on Instagram and Flickr. And I was actually out at Queenscliff and Geelong on the weekend and taking a few snaps. So a few more additions to the album there. So that was all good. And lastly, recommend us to anyone who you may think is interested in our weekly discussions. All right, we'll start with the poll that we ran at the end of last week. Have you been a victim of cybercrime? This was left over from what we were discussing in one of our tech news bites last week. 25% said yes, 75% said no. Not really surprising. Surprised it wasn't really higher yes rate because you just hear of all these scams going on all the time, really.
Well, I mean, I guess it just depends how you define cybercrime. Is it somebody else accessing your accounts, or is it, is it actually somebody making a financial transaction or stealing your identity? And certainly, I think everyone's got one of those spams where somebody's actually infiltrated someone else's account, Twitter or mail or something like that, and then start to data mine and use your list of contacts.
Yeah, it's a scary subject, really. And I think as we alluded to last week, until it happens to you, it's sort of something that you don't really think about. But given we're so online these days, I think it actually is something that we really need to think about.
Well, that's right, especially as we covered Matt Honan's story last year in one of the FiST Chats. Well worth checking out if you've missed out on that one. But that's a very scary story about what happens when somebody can actually break into your online cloud-based storage.
Absolutely. All righty, we got a lot to get through today, and the first is a really fascinating topic that you found, Steve. Scientists read dreams using brain scans. So very sort of fascinating from the BBC, and it's basically saying scientists have found a way to read dreams. Researchers in Japan used MRI scans to reveal the images that people were seeing as they entered into an early stage of sleep. Now, the team now wants to see if brain activity can be used to decipher other aspects of dreaming, such as emotions experienced during sleep. Is this closer to mind reading as well? Or I mean, that's another question. But
well, this is a really interesting piece of research because effectively it's saying that you can, if they can map the neural pathways that match the images, then that means effectively you're getting a very crude way of interpreting people's thought patterns or dream patterns, but also a really crude way, certainly in the start, of being able to upload and download data from the brain or interpret it. So that's quite fascinating. And considering that I think it was this week as well that Obama launched the Brain Project in the US, where they're talking about the fact that they want to uncover the secrets of the brain which sounds great in principle in terms of all the benefits there would be for people with brain injuries or illnesses. But wow, that's a little bit scary. Once we know how humans think, and we could simulate that with artificial intelligence, there goes being human.
We'll just pass it on to the tech generation, literally.
Well, I mean, these are the sorts of things that people really need to discuss. I mean, reading dreams is one thing, but for those of us that have seen the film Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind,
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you can interpret what people are thinking or dreaming, then therefore you can control it. And if you can control it, then you can influence the way we think and feel. And that's got huge implications.
Absolutely. But just one caveat that I noticed that they put on this thing was that the way it stands at the moment, you'd need to study this each individual subject first before you could, I guess, have enough data to then, process the dreams that occur at a later point.
Yes.
So in that sense, the idea of a sort of like a universal dream reader is not really practical at the moment. And it sounds like it would take a very, very long time to make that actually happen.
Well, that's right. I mean, this is the big hurdle into understanding the brain. It's not a simple system. So many things are interconnected. And this is why we have so much trouble with artificial intelligence, because that too isn't a simple process. But it's very interesting. I mean, this is obviously the start of something. So we may not be able to do this, yet, but down the track, all these pieces will come together at some stage, and we will understand, or at least know how it works potentially, the way we think and react. So I don't know. I don't know if the world's ready for that, Ben.
You think that like with any sort of scientific discovery like this, that they stop to think about the implications of what something like this could do? Because obviously, I can imagine. I'm not a scientist, but I can imagine that if you're out there, trying to discover things or researching things, and you want to see how things work, and you stumble or you find or you discover this, say exactly this thing, you go, you get excited and you go, let's see what it can do. And then you can kind of rush in and into something and then maybe not realize what the implications of it might be.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, most of the time these discoveries are done in the best possible intention. So, it's very likely that, through understanding how the brain works, you can cure Alzheimer's, you can fix people up that have had strokes, you can help people that maybe even have an intellectual disability or a mental illness. But the flip side is in that gaining that knowledge, if it means that you can plug something in the back of your head to make you a bit smarter, or if you can upload and download your thoughts and feelings, then you start to move to a whole different plane in terms of human evolution and capacity. And while that has benefits, these things always have unintended consequences, and it's those consequences that we never talk about until it's too late.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's science fiction speculated a lot about the sort of the invasion of technology into the human body and what that might mean. And obviously there's sort of crude ideas in there too, but when you start to see things like this, not that you want to get alarmist or anything, but it kind of rings those alarm bells that it feels okay to have all these gadgets around. I'm surrounded by them at the moment, filming this FiST chat. Doesn't mean I actually want to for more efficient usage or whatever, to have it implanted into my brain so that I don't have to look at it in order to get a piece of information I need.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely right. But, typically these things happen over a long time. So 1 week you're wearing Google glasses, next minute, you've got Google eyeballs.
And maybe about a couple of decades in between, maybe, of research and development.
Might not be that long if they can plug something into the back of your head. But anyway, let's leave it at that.
Absolutely. All right, we might move on because we've got quite a few a few news bites to get through. Now, our film news bites got a couple of funny ones here. Brad Pitt's zombie virus becomes Moscow flu to appease the Chinese. That's that's quite funny coming from the Australian. For 7 years, Brad Pitt has been warding off flesh-eating monsters and Hollywood executives to bring his $250 million dream of a zombie plague movie to the cinema. But after an epic journey of script rewrites and expensive reshoots, Pitt has been blindsided by Chinese censors who have threatened to ban the film unless he makes a special edition for them. I mean,
this is just amazing. Brad Pitt, the independent filmmaker, gets Hollywood on side, and then there's a force higher than Hollywood that forces him to change his script. I mean, normally this is what you'd expect if you made your ordinary film, having the executive producer telling you what to do. This is hilarious. I mean, I don't think it's anything unusual or unnatural. It's just the only thing that's a bit quirky about it is the Chinese censors telling him what to do.
Well, you just can't win, can you? Is there such a thing as an indie filmmaker under these conditions?
I would have thought if anyone could have afforded to be an indie filmmaker, it would have been Brad Pitt. So there's a fair slice of irony in this.
No, absolutely. And speaking of more indie films, but this one's probably interesting in that it was very quickly produced and obviously designed to capitalize on the wave of Steve Jobs biopics that are in the pipeline. The Funny or Die website released its trailer for its Steve Jobs parody film iSteve, starring Justin Long of the Mac versus PC ads. Shot very quickly, apparently. I don't think they're claiming to be of maybe the best quality Steve Jobs film, but they're aiming to be the first one.
Well, that's all that matters, being first.
Exactly. So, do you think that the trailer didn't really give too much away, but I'm just wondering, is this going to have any value, you think, or is it just going to be a fun thing to watch?
Hard to know. I mean,
what'd you make of it when you saw it?
Well, same as you. It's hard to see where it was going. I almost thought that I might be asked to help crowdsource it at the end of the trailer, but I'm not sure. I guess it'll depend. Dare I say it, that Steve Jobs is one of those extreme characters that even telling his life story completely deadpan still pushes the boundaries of parody. So you can take from that what you will. They might be able to do it straight laced. I mean, if you put some of his tantrums or some of his wild ideas out there, probably exactly the way that he did present them, I mean, that would be parody, wouldn't it?
No, of course. I'm just thinking it's just Justin Long in front of a green screen for 2 hours, and they just keep changing the backgrounds. Maybe they just filmed it in 2 days or something.
Oh, goodness. I made a film like that once, Ben. In fact, I wasn't there. I just produced it.
Oh, maybe these guys did the same thing then.
Very possible, very possible.
Absolutely. All right, we'll move on to our science news bite. We're doomed, apparently. Men's sex chromosome is doomed from the age. This story, poorly designed Y chromosome that makes men is degrading rapidly and will disappear even if humans are still around. Evolutionary geneticist Jenny Graves says that while the process is likely to happen within the next 5 million years, it could have begun already in some isolated groups. You can take. I yield the floor to you on this one.
Well, this is a story that's been around for a long time, and there's no question that the Y chromosome, which is missing one of its legs effectively to become an X chromosome, is the weakness and in the human genetic system, and it will eventually be evolved out. But 5 million years, I mean, honestly, even if it's starting to happen today, we'll have the technology to be building our own chromosomes within the not too distant future. And I would say within the next century. I mean, so the reality is that I don't think humans are going to be humans in probably more than 50 years. We've already spoken about the brain research and the implications of that today. I think that regenerative medicine and our ability to adapt and alter our genomes will mean that it's just not going to happen.
So the point is
moot.
Somewhere in the sticks.
and play banjo.
So that pretty much draws a line under that, I would say. Oh, well, I guess it's an interesting little side topic.
Well, let's say it would happen, but if you're on the Enterprise and you decide to go off and explore the universe, you're safe.
Well, that's good to know then.
Men are safe.
All right, and finally, we've got 2 tech news bites. The cell phone turns 40 from CNN. They did a little compilation. The mobile phone started back in 1973 with the first call on the 4th of April from Motorola, which it's just sort of like an interesting piece of history, really, considering phones are not really what phones were back then. I think a phone these days is almost beside the point, considering the devices that we carry around and how much they can do.
Oh, absolutely. It's just, amazing. A phone was the ability to call somebody 40 years ago. And it's interesting, Motorola were at the top of the game first, and then along came Nokia. And now, of course, we have the smartphone. So a lot has changed. And I still remember getting one of my first or second phones and having text messaging demonstrated to me.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. The other thing, too, is that you don't actually use the phone part necessarily for communication, because there's so many different apps that obviously access the internet for communication that more people, like even right now, us doing FiST chat using Google Plus, the Hangouts. So, we could be doing it off a phone, or we could be doing it off a computer. And I think the phone is almost sort of regulated to a bygone era almost.
Yeah, look, the concept of the phone obviously will probably go the same way as the CD and the DVD within the next, 5 to 10 years.
Yep, and we'll have it, and we'll have a chip implanted in our head, and we can hear voices in in between our ears.
That's it. It's all going to be file transfer, Ben. File transfer.
Yeah, exactly. And finally, we've got a space one. Kepler watches white dwarf warp space time. If I can get that out of my mouth. From Discovery News, the Kepler Space Telescope's primary objective is to hunt for small worlds orbiting distant stars, but that doesn't mean it's not going to detect other things. And it found something rather interesting. There was a star found to be wobbling like a spinning top. Meaning there was something more massive in orbit, and it turned out to be a white dwarf star. Now, as I understand, even though the white dwarf is going to be much more dense and, in a sense, heavier, and even though it was small and there was this really big star around it, the big star was orbiting the dwarf, wasn't it? Because the dwarf was that powerful.
That's right. So if you want to imagine a balloon. Okay, and that balloon, next to it you have a marble. The marble can weigh more than the balloon because it's far denser. Yeah. And what will be happening there is the smaller white dwarf will be pushing around. They'll actually be pushing around each other. I'm not sure how it works with the relative size and density, but the white dwarf will be a lot denser, and therefore probably sucking a lot of the gas straight out of the red dwarf, causing it to wobble with its pull. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. I always love these stories. It's just, I don't know, it's very Star Trek to me. I don't know, you're out there, and even though we're using big telescopes to sort of see these things, it'd be nice to be out there in a spaceship or something. But the fact that we have these tools to be able to see these things is really sort of opening our eyes to what's out there. Well, the thing is, we've said before on FiST Chat, Ben, this is now really a kind of pseudo space travel. The fact that we can see these things that we've never seen before, and actually participate in what's going on in our uniform in a universe in a whole new way is that's amazing. It's amazing to have found this, and very exciting, because I guess we could have hypothesized this, but until you see it, nobody ever believes that it could happen. Absolutely. All right, Steve, we're totally out of time, so thanks again for the chat. Thank you. Tweet us, FiST Chat fans. Say hello. Let us know what you're up to. Absolutely. All right, so that's it for this week's episode, so we'll catch you next week.